everyone, welcome to this short tutorial on how to make these gorgeous little chainmail pumpkins. So this is a weave called Whirly Gig and it is designed to sit this way around, but I thought it looked absolutely gorgeous as a little pumpkin. You can see we've got the little tendrils here at the top and a hanging loop if we need it, and then we've got our spiral at the bottom which makes it nice and stable to sit down. But they are really cool. You can use them as pumpkins, but they'd also look beautiful as Christmas decorations as well. So to make these, what we need is 15 of our 10mm inner diameter jump rings that are made on a 1.25 wire that are aspect ratio of 8, and I've used 30 3.75mm made on a 1.25mm wire, aspect ratio 3 for the small jump rings. You can make these in lots of different sizes. This is just the size that I've used for this one. So it's, like I say, it's based on a European 4-in-1. So have a little play around with the sizes. You've probably got sizes at home or in your stash that will work perfectly for this little weave. So to get started, the pliers that we're going to use for the chainmail section are our chain nose and flat nose pliers. For the spirals and the tendrils, we're going to use our round nose and our cutters. I'll link all the information down below. If you're looking for pliers, I've got pliers on my website. Again, I'll link the information down below, and I'll link all the jump ring sizes down below as well. The last thing that you're going to need is just 2 sections of 0.8 wire, and this is just to make your spirals and your tendrils and the hanging loop at the top. So I've got roughly about 10 inches on one and 7 inches with the other piece, but there'll probably be some left over with that. So to start our chainmail section, we're going to take 15 of our small jump rings and attach them, close them all up and attach them to one large jump ring. So 15 small jump rings on one large jump ring, and we're going to do that twice. We're then going to take an open large jump ring, and I'm going to pick up 2 jump rings from one of the sections, and I'm going to pick up 2 small jump rings from the other section. So you can see now that we've attached these 2 together via those small jump rings. I'm going to close this up. And what I've got now is if I lay it down, you'll be able to see it easier. So I've got my 2 large sections and one of my jump rings holding it together. I'm now going to take my next open jump ring. Now, like I say, it's based on European 4-in-1, so one jump ring holds 4 in place. So if we think about it that way, we need 1 jump ring from the previous connection, and we need 1 fresh jump ring. So we always go clockwise round. I'm right-handed, so I always go clockwise round. So I'm going to pick up the top jump ring, small jump ring from the left-hand side. I'm going to pick up a fresh small jump ring from the left-hand side, and I'm going to come around and then come down through a fresh jump ring from the right-hand side and the top right-hand jump ring from the right-hand side. So I've now got this jump ring holding 4 in place. Let me just see if I can get it to focus and keep it on properly. There we go. So we've got 4 jump rings in place, and I'm now going to close this one up. So this jump ring naturally is now sitting on top of the previous large jump ring. So again, I'm going to go through the top jump ring on the left side, a fresh jump ring from the left side, turning my work around. I only need 1 of that small jump ring from the right hand side, and I'm coming down through that jump ring and then down through the top right jump ring that was held together by the previous large jump ring, and close again. And again, this will sit on top of the previous large jump ring, so you can see we're starting to connect all of these together. I'm just going to do one more for you. So again, if we take a fresh jump ring either side, we want the top jump ring, move that one out of the way so you can see, we want the top jump ring from the left hand side, a fresh jump ring, so we're coming up through the left hand side, and I like to turn my work around, bring the loose free jump ring down to the right and coming down through that loose jump ring and then down through the top right hand jump ring and close. So you're going to carry on doing that until you've got all of your jump rings connected together. So you'll see it's starting to form this spiral, and as it starts to go around, you'll form it into a circle. So if I just bring this one over, what you can see with this one is when you get to the end, if I just remove this jump ring, when you get to the end, so your last jump ring has used all of your small jump rings up. Okay, so that's 14 jump rings that's used all of them up. But as you can see, we do have a gap now. So all these are now completed all the way around, but we've got a gap that to attach the back to the front. Now we're going to use these inner two jump rings. I'll just get a piece of wire, I'll show you. These inner two jump rings here, the small jump rings. So my last large ring, it's not going to focus with that. My last large ring has to come and attach these two inside jump rings and then the last two here. So I find the easiest way to do this, and it sometimes can take a little bit of jiggling around, is to go through the top left as normal and then just bring in your last jump ring round. Like I say, it is a little bit tight in here, but it is doable. And to get it to be nice and nicely sort of like rigid, we need this last one to be an extra, like a little tighter. So it's, if you want it to be loose, you can go down in size of your up in size of these smaller jump rings, but just persevere and just go through those last 4 jump rings. So I've got all 4 of those jump rings in place. You can see I've got the 2 top ones from the last jump ring that I added in, and then the first 2 from the inside one. And when I do this one up, you'll see now that you've got your full pendant. So this is your whirligig pendant. So like I say, you can either have it this way round or you can hang it from here and here. If you wanted to use it as a pendant, you can do, but we're going to turn it into a lovely pumpkin. So to make the top and the bottom of our pumpkin, what we need to do to start with is make this bottom spiral. So I'm going to take the longer piece of wire and using my round nose pliers, right at the very end of the wire, I'm just going to trim that so it's a nice flush piece of wire. At the minute it's got the little pinch on it, so I'm just going to cut that so that it's nice and straight. Taking my round nose pliers at the end, I'm just going to form a little loop. So just bringing that round, so I formed a little tiny loop. Now what you can do if you want to even round it is just trim off that last little bit and then go back in and you can make it even smaller and more rounder. So I've now got my start of my spiral. Now taking my flat nose pliers, I'm going to hold the end of that loop. So I'm holding the whole loop in my pliers, and using my thumb I'm pushing the wire around. Now this is bare copper wire, so there is no coating to come off of it. So if you're using a coated wire, just be very careful that you don't move your pliers around on it, and that will then take the coating off the wire or even scratch it. And what I'm doing is I'm just using my thumb just to keep pushing the wire around to create our spiral. There you go. Can you see that okay? It's almost good. You see it's spiraling around. So I need to make sure that I've got a big enough spiral to finish the bottom of the pumpkin. So what I'm going to do in a second, once I've got a little bit bigger, is I'm going to just check it against the bottom of the pumpkin. So you can see I've got my spiral there. I'm just going to check it over the top, and you can see I just could do it a little bit more. It's just not big enough, so I'm just going to go just maybe once or twice around more. I'll just check it against. Now that is a better fit for the bottom of the pumpkin. So now holding on to our spiral, I'm going to then bring the tail end of the wire vertical. So I've just put a 45-degree bend in it. It doesn't have to be perfect. 45-degree bend in that wire, so it's now sitting straight up. I'm then going to bend it across the front of my spiral. So you can see now it's come around and across the front of my spiral, and then using either your thumb or your pliers in the middle of that spiral. So you can see I'm holding everything still. I'm going to bring the wire vertical again. So I've got my wire coming up the centre of the spiral. This is what the back of the spiral looks like. That's what you're going to see. This is what's coming up the centre. And I'm now going to take my whirligig pendant or pumpkin. I'm going to put that down over the top, and we can see now that that's sitting perfectly there. Then what we need to do is create another spiral that's going to sit over the top. So I'm just going to create that exactly the same, and I'll meet you back here in a second. So using the second piece of wire, I've made exactly the same kind of spiral that I did for the bottom, and you can see I've left quite a long tail on this one, and we're not going to need all this wire, but it is just good to have that little bit more wire. And we're going to do exactly the same by bending the wire up to the middle. So again, 45-degree angle, and then pushing the wire across the base, and then just again bringing it upright. So I've now got exactly the same kind of look that I had before, and I'm going to place the wire from the bottom spiral up through the top. Okay, and what a little twist so that they're now attaching to each other. So just locking them in place. Now they don't have to be completely perfect to start with, it's just so that they stay together while we're doing our little wrapped loop. I'll bring that around. There we go. So we can now use one of these wires, which is usually the one that's coming straight up in the middle, to make our wrapped loop. If you don't want a wrapped loop on it, that's okay. You can still just do, you could just do a little loop or some more little tendrils on there. So taking my round nose pliers, I'm going to just bend the wire over onto a 45-degree angle, bring my pliers upright all the way round till I can't go any further because the pumpkin's in the way. Lift my pliers up and I'm just going to gently form a bit of a loop here. So I'm just forming that loop all the way around, and I'm going to just spiral this wire down. Like I say, it doesn't have to be neat and tidy. It is a pumpkin, so it can be a little bit messy. That's no problem at all. So I've now got my wrapped loop, and then with this wire, again, I'm just going to bring that around and just wrap it a little bit more so it's starting to firm up where this wire, the top of the pumpkin is going to be. So I've now got little tail ends of wire which I can now use as my tendrils. So again, just bringing that round until we've got just a little bit left on either side. And then to make our little tendrils, to make sure everything's nice and level, to make our little tendrils, all we're going to do is take our round nose pliers, and this one's just a little bit long, I'm just going to trim it down a little tiny bit. Taking our round nose pliers, we're going to make a loop on our pliers, and we're just going to carry on making a spiral. So we're not taking it off of our pliers, just bringing it down, so we're coiling that wire down towards the end, pull it out, and then you can then use your chain nose pliers just to spread that out a little bit, just so it looks a little bit more tendril like so. And then the same on this one, using your round nose pliers, making a little coil on the end, and carry on just turning that down till it becomes a little tendril, however you want it to sit. There we go. And then again, using your chain nose pliers, just keeping hold of it a little bit tighter and just open up those little coils so it looks a little bit more like it's got tendrils around it. And there you see we've got our beautiful little pumpkin. So these are the two pumpkins together. So you could use different coloured wires for them. You could make them into Christmas decorations as well. So rather than placing a coil top and bottom, you could put a bead on the top and bottom, have these as Christmas decorations. But I just think they make absolutely gorgeous little pumpkins. I hope you've enjoyed this short tutorial on how to make these little pumpkins. If you have, I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel and maybe give it a thumbs up or a comment, and that will help YouTube to show everybody that my tutorials are fun and that they want to watch them. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care. Bye.